President Albert Chambers stood at the window of the Oval Office, his gaze fixed on the night sky. The stars seemed different now, no longer just distant lights but potential allies, threats, and destinations. The weight of humanity's future pressed heavily on his shoulders. A soft chime interrupted his reverie. "Mr. President," his aide's voice came through the intercom, "Admiral Hayes is here for your briefing." Chambers turned from the window. "Send her in." Admiral Victoria Hayes entered, her uniform crisp, her expression grave. She carried a tablet, which she placed on the president's desk as she sat down. "What's the latest, Admiral?" Chambers asked, taking his seat. Hayes tapped the tablet, bringing up the report of the solar system. "We've made significant progress, Mr. President. The lunar and Martian operations are exceeding expectations. Resource processing is coming online faster than anticipated." Chambers nodded, a hint of pride in his eyes. "And the Prometheus project?" "The first XSV-1 is nearing completion," Hayes reported. "We've incorporated some insights from the Loxus ships, which has caused some delays but should result in a superior vessel." "Good," Chambers said. "We'll need every advantage we can get. What about our ships currently in service?" Hayes manipulated the display, zooming in on the lunar orbital station. "The Hope and Defiant are both at the station, receiving upgrades. The new stealth coating is remarkable. It absorbs over 99.9% of light. In the vastness of space, they'll be nearly invisible." Chambers leaned forward, intrigued. "And the Audacity? Any word from Captain Shaw?" Hayes' expression tightened slightly. "That's complicated, sir. The Naxath are insistent on access to our system's wormhole points." "Why is it that important to them?" Chambers frowned. "What exactly does that mean?" "We're not entirely sure," Hayes admitted. "Captain Shaw is doing her best to negotiate, but she's in uncharted territory. We've sent instructions, but given the communication lag." Chambers nodded, understanding the implications. "She'll have to make some decisions on her own." "Do we trust her judgment?" "Implicitly, sir," Hayes affirmed. "Shaw is one of England's best. But the stakes are high." As they continued to discuss the various operations and diplomatic situations, neither of them noticed the small, unobtrusive device hidden in a corner of the room, silently recording their conversation. Deep in the Siberian wilderness, General Viktor Volkov stood before a bank of monitors, each displaying different aspects of the Myzoan technology they had acquired. The room hummed with an alien energy, both exciting and unsettling. "Report," Volkov barked, his eyes never leaving the screens. Dr. Andrei Kuznetsov stepped forward, his face haggard from long hours of work. "We're making progress, General. We've managed to disassemble some of the Myzoan systems. But..." Volkov turned, his eyes narrowing. "But what, Doctor?" Kuznetsov swallowed hard. "The circuitry and even the materials are foreign to us. It seems the Myzoans withheld vital technical information. We will continue our efforts to backward engineer, but there is no reason to be optimistic." Volkov's fist clenched at his side. "Can we use it? Is it safe?" "Safe to use as is, most likely. If you want one of the weapons mounted on a fighter jet, that we can do." Kuznetsov hedged. "We are still working out how to add the weapons and power system for it to a fighter. We are uncertain about powering the weapons off the power generated by the jet engine." Volkov nodded, his mind racing. They had traded prisoners for this technology, and his superiors in Moscow had very optimistic ideas about how well this would go. The Myzoan technology not living up to expectations could have career-ending ramifications. It was all made worse that the Western alliance was surging ahead and the Busner threat was still looming. "Double your efforts," he ordered. "We need results. Make this happen." Kuznetsov nodded, understanding the unspoken threat. As he hurried back to his work, Volkov turned his gaze to a separate monitor, displaying a feed from a hidden camera in the Oval Office. Knowledge was power, and in this new cosmic game, they needed every advantage they could get. On Mars, Dr. Yuki Tanaka peered through a microscope, her breath catching as she examined the strange alloy they had discovered. Beside her, Dr. Carl Robertson paced anxiously. "Well?" Robertson prompted, unable to contain his excitement. "What do you think?" Tanaka leaned back, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's incredible. The potential applications. We have to report this," Robertson insisted. "This could change everything." Tanaka held up a hand, urging caution. "Not yet. We need to be certain before we say anything. Run every test we have. Twice. I want to know everything about this isotope before we even think about telling Earth." As Robertson hurried off to comply, Tanaka turned back to the microscope. The implications of their discovery were staggering. A naturally occurring alloy in quantity with properties beyond anything Earth could presently produce. Titanium that was somehow lighter, tougher and more conductive. But it also raised troubling questions. How had this formed? How large was the deposit they had found on Mars, and were there more deposits that could be found? Aboard the Audacity, light years from Earth, Captain Emily Shaw sat in her ready room, her head in her hands. The weight of the decisions before her seemed almost unbearable. A chime at her door roused her from her thoughts. "Enter," she called. Lieutenant Richard Baker stepped in, concern evident on his face. "Captain, the Naxith are requesting another meeting. They're insistent about the wormhole access." Shaw nodded, straightening in her chair. "Tell them I'll be there shortly." As Baker left, Shaw stood, moving to the small viewport. The alien stars of the Naxith system twinkled back at her, beautiful and mysterious. She thought of Earth, so far away, waiting for her decision. The stakes were enormous. Grant the Naxith access to Sol's wormhole points, and they gained a powerful ally and trading partner. But it could also open Earth to untold dangers. Taking a deep breath, Shaw steeled herself for the negotiations ahead. She had her orders, her training, and her instincts. It would have to be enough. The future of Earth might well depend on the choices she made here, in this distant, alien system. In the depths of Area 51, Dr. Elena Reyes stood before a holographic display, her team gathered around her. The image showed the results of their latest weapons test, and the data was extraordinary. "As you can see," Reyes explained, her voice tight with controlled excitement, "the hybrid technology not only met but exceeded our expectations. The energy output is off the charts." Dr. James Chen, her assistant, leaned in, his brow furrowed. "But the power requirements are still problematic," Reyes admitted. "But we're making progress. Each iteration is more efficient than the last." As the team discussed the implications and next steps, Reyes couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and trepidation. They were pushing the boundaries of known science, combining human ingenuity with alien technology in ways that were revolutionizing their understanding of physics itself. But there was a darker side to their work. Was it enough? The Busner attack had shown Earth what was out there was capable of quick devastation. This weapon was more powerful than anything Earth had or been given, but would it damage the Busner ships? There was no way to test that, and if it couldn't, the results would be damning. Her thoughts were interrupted as someone said, "What if we make a warthog?" Dr. Michael Thompson asked it as if it made complete sense. He looked around and realized no one else had a clue what he was talking about. He waved his hands in the air as if to clear a mental chalkboard. "The A-10 Warthog," he said it again as if that would make everyone understand. The blank expressions on the research team made it clear it didn't. "The A-10 Warthog is a plane that was designed around a weapon. We fix the weapon forward firing only, design it and the superstructure to support it and power for it. Then work outwards from there. Granted, more complicated since it's in space and it's an energy weapon instead of a tank buster minigun, but same concept." There was a chorus of engineers quickly giving reasons why this would not work. Dr. Reyes interrupted. "Break off into your usual teams. I want better ideas, not negatives." She looked at Dr. Thompson. "Michael, your team will be working on that design." Out in the asteroid belt, the Prospector continued its lonely mission. Captain William Brown stood on the bridge, watching as another drone engine was deployed to a promising asteroid. "That makes 17 this week," his XO, Sarah Jones, reported. "We're ahead of schedule." Captain Brown announced. "With that one underway, set a route back to the Lunar Orbital Station. The Defiant should be out of dock soon and we are up next. Everyone will get some much-deserved leave while we are getting refits." Brown nodded, a grim smile on his face. "Good. The more resources we can redirect to Mars and the Moon, the better our chances of meeting the Busner demands." As they watched the asteroid slowly begin to change course, nudged by the tiny but powerful engine, Brown couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. Just a few years ago, the idea of redirecting asteroids would have seemed like science fiction. Now it was routine. But even as they worked to meet the Busner's demands, Brown knew they were also preparing for a future where humanity would no longer be at the mercy of alien threats. Each asteroid they sent back was not just a tribute to the Busner, but raw material for the ships and weapons that would one day defend Earth. At the Lunar Orbital Station, the Hope and Defiant hung in space, their newly applied stealth coating making them nearly invisible against the backdrop of stars. Inside the station, engineers and scientists worked around the clock, pushing the boundaries of human technology. Dr. Emily Takahashi stood on the observation deck, watching as work continued on the first XSV-1 Prometheus. The ship was a marvel, a testament to human ingenuity and the rapid advancements they'd made since first contact. "Impressive, isn't it?" came a voice from behind her. Takahashi turned to see Captain Michael Davis of the Defiant. She nodded, a hint of pride in her voice. "It's going to change everything. Prometheus isn't just a ship, it's a statement. A declaration that humanity will adapt and survive." Davis's expression was more reserved. "How do you think it would do against a Busner ship?" She frowned. "It's a next step, a fundamental blending of several technologies. There will only be the one XSV-1, we have learned that much in just building it. We are hoping that when the Busner return for their extortion payment we will get scans of their ships that will help clue us into the real threat level. All the aliens we have met just say they are superior while giving no real details." Back on Earth, in the headquarters of the newly expanded U.S. Space Force, General Jonathan Madison addressed a room full of officers. The wall behind him displayed images of the Busner attack. "You are the first line of defense," Madison's voice boomed across the room. "The thin red line that stands between Earth and the threats that lurk among the stars. Make no mistake, we are at war. The Busner may not know it yet, but every one of you does. As you can see, the Busner are a superior force. They wiped out 2 colonies, 2 stations and 2 destroyers in 2 days, and they thought that was a good way to say hello. To say they vastly beat us on tech is an understatement. We need strategies, we need options. The eggheads are working on new tech, the diplomats are trying to bargain for new technologies, but the other aliens we have met say the Busner are superior to them also. As you break into think tanks, work on strategies that will protect Earth and allow us to strike back at the Busner." Meanwhile, the Phoenix was in dock at the Mars orbital station getting upgrades of its own. The crew was making the most of their time off, even if it was time so far away from home and all its amenities.